Reading the lore, the Völundarkviða. Nidud was the name of a king in Sweden. He had 2 sons and a daughter named Bodvild. There were 3 brothers, sons of King Finni. One was named Slagfinn, the other Egil, the third Volund. They skied and hunted, and when they came to Ulfdalir, they made themselves houses there. There is a lake called Ulfsva there. Early in the morning they found 3 women at the lakeshore who were spinning thread. There were swanskins near them, since the women were Valkyries. 2 of them were daughters of King Hlodver, and these were Hlathgud and Swanwhite and Hervor the Wise. The third was Olrun, daughter of Kjar, king of France. The men took these 3 women home with them. Egil married Olrun, Slagfinn took Hlathgud, and Volund took Hervor. They lived like this for 7 winters, but then the women left them in order to visit battlefields and never came home again. Egil and Slagfinn skied away in search of their wives, but Volund stayed home in Ulfdalir. He was, as far as men know, the most capable with his hands of all the people of the old sagas. King Nidud had him seized, and this poem is about that. Women flew from the south through Mirkwood, those young Valkyries who choose men's fates. These southern ladies paused to rest on a lake shore. They spun and weaved precious threads. Egil took one for his wife. He took that beauty in his embrace. Slagfinn took Hlathgud, clad in swan feathers, and the third, their sister, took Volund's handsome neck in her embrace. Afterwards they stayed for 7 winters, but in the 8th they became anxious, and in the 9th they had to depart. Those ladies yearned for Mirkwood. Those Valkyries were eager to judge wars. The sharp-eyed archer Egil and his brother Slagfinn came home from hunting and found their homes empty. They went in and out and looked all around, but finally Egil skied east to look for Olrun, and Slagfinn skied south to look for Hlathgud. But Volund sat alone in Ulfdalir. He worked gold and colorful jewels. He assembled rings and strung them on ropes. In this way he waited to see whether his lady would return. Nidud learned this, the lord of Njari. He heard that Volund was alone in his valley. He sent men in the night, wearing well-made armor. Their shields glimmered in the light of the waning moon. They dismounted at Volund's doorstep. They went inside his vast home. They saw Volund's golden rings, 700 altogether, strung on a rope. They took them in hand, then put them back, but stole a single one before they stepped out. Then the keen-eyed archer Volund came home. He had traveled a long way that day. He started to roast the meat of a brown bear. The kindling burned, the dry wood burned, the wind-dried logs burned, and it warmed Volund. Volund the elf sat on the bearskin and counted his rings, but noticed one missing. He thought it must be Hervor, his wife. He thought she'd come back and taken the ring. He sat waiting for her, so long he fell asleep, and when he awoke he was bound in chains. He saw the heavy chains restraining his hands, and on his feet there were also solid locks. He called out, "Who are the kings who have put chains on me? Who has tied me up?" Nidud, lord of Njari, gave him the answer, "Volund, you crafty elf, where did you find our treasures in your valley?" Volund said, "It was hardly a hoard such as Sigurd's gold. My home was not near the mountains of the Rhine. I remember when we used to have yet more, when we were a happy family at home in Ulfdalir." Hlathgud and Hervor were daughters of Hlodver. Olrun, Kjar's daughter, was a cunning sorceress. Nidud's queen came into the magnificent hall. She stood proudly on the floor and spoke, "This man who came in from the woods will not be happy." King Nidud gave his daughter the gold ring that he had taken from Volund. He himself carried Volund's sword, and the queen said, "Volund shows his teeth every time he sees that sword, or when Bolvild wears that ring in his presence. His eyes are as cruel as a glistening snake's. Cut his sinews, rob his strength, and put him away in Saivarstoth." So Volund's hamstrings were cut, and he was placed on a small island next to the land, which was called Saisvarstoth. There he made all kinds of treasures for the king, and no one dared to come to the island except the king himself. Volund said, "My sword shines on Nidud's belt, the sword I sharpened, the sword I alone, the greatest smith, could make, the sword I hardened with my unmatched skill. Now that glistening sword is always far from my sight, since Nidhuth will not bring that treasure to my workshop. His daughter Bolvild also wears a treasure, never meant for her, my bride's golden ring. Volund worked, never sleeping, constantly swinging his hammer. He thought of a daring plot to foil Nidhuth. Then Nidhuth's 2 young sons, the 2 boys, came to see Volund's treasures on the island of Sveivarsthoth. They came to the treasure chest. They asked for the keys. They realized Volund's skill when they peered inside. The boys saw many ornaments, all of them made of gold and gems. Volund said, "Come back alone, just you 2, the day after tomorrow. I will give all this gold to you if you do. Don't tell the ladies, don't tell the men, don't tell anyone at all that you are meeting with me." Early on the appointed day, one boy said to the other, "Let's go see the rings." So the 2 boys came and asked for the keys. They realized Volund's skill when they peered inside. He cut off the heads of those young boys. He hid their bodies under his bellows, but he took their skulls and scalped them, set them with silver, and sent them as cups to Nidhuth. And from the eyes of those young boys he made jewels for their mother, Nidhuth's wife, and Volund made ornaments from the teeth of her own 2 brothers for Bolvild, Nidhuth's daughter. Bolvild praised a ring Volund had made. She told him it was broken. "And I don't dare to tell it," she said, "to anyone but you." Volund said, "I'll repair it so that your father on his throne will look at it, and to him and to your mother it will look even better, and you'll think so too when you wear it." He gave her beer. He could easily outdrink her, and finally she sat in his chair and she slept. Volund said, "Now I have avenged the wrongs done to me, all except one of the most wicked. I have done well. I wish I were on my feet, the ones cut from me by the wicked men of Nidhuth." But then, laughing, Volund launched himself in the air. Bolvild wept as she left the island. She wept for her lover's departure and her father's anger. Volund saw where Nidhuth's queen stood outside and went into the hall. Volund perched atop the wall and said, "Are you awake, Nidhuth, lord of Nyari?" Nidhuth said, "I am awake. I have no joy. I barely sleep since my son's death. Your cold actions have chilled me. Now I wish I had never dealt with Volund. Tell me, Volund, you crafty elf, what kind of fate did my sons meet?" Volund said, "First you must swear many oaths. Swear by a ship's board, by a shield's edge, by a horse's withers, by a sword's blade that you will not harm my lover, nor cause her death, even if my new bride is a woman of your kin, even if she bears my child, inside your own hall. Then go to the workshop that you forced me into. There you'll find bags full of blood. I cut your boys' heads off and left their bodies beneath the bellows. And after I scalped them, I took the bare skulls and decorated them with silver before I sent them to you. And after I took their eyes out, I turned them into jewels for your crafty queen. I made jewels from the teeth of those 2 boys, and I sent those to your daughter Bolvild. Now Bolvild walks about pregnant, yes, the only daughter of the 2 of you." The king said, "You could say nothing more awful to me. I would never torture you worse. There is no man so tall that he could reach you up there, nor so good a shot that he could shoot you down. There where you hang among the clouds, Volund." Laughing, Volund flew up and away, and left the joyless Nidhuth sitting below. Nidhuth said, "Get up, Thokrath, my good servant. Go get my pretty daughter Bolvild. Tell her to come to me in fine dress, to come talk to her father." The king then said to her, "Is it true, Bolvild, what Volund said, that you and he lay together?" She said, "It is true, father. Everything he said to you is true. Volund and I lay together on his island a while. We never should have. I couldn't fight him, father. I could not withstand him, father." And that was the Völundarkviða. Let us know what you guys thought about this poem in the comments section below. If you like this, don't forget to like and subscribe for more content. My name is Gavin. This is the Heathen Household. Thank you guys so much for sitting with us today, and we'll see you next time.